Welcome to the Teaching with Google Arts and Culture webinar. I'm Michael, EDU Community Manager from Google for Education Programs team. Thank you for all the coaches, innovators, partners, and trainers all over the world who are joining us live today. In today's session, we are joined by Tammy Lind, who will show you a demo on how to use Google Arts and Culture. We will also be joined by Lucy and Emma from the Arts and Culture team, who will answer your questions during the Q&A session. Emma, do you want to say hi first?
Sure, thanks, Michael. Hi, my name's Emma. I work with Google Arts and Culture, working with Lucy. Tend to lean on the learning side of things, and I'm based in London.
And hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I am overseeing education for Google Arts and Culture and really excited to be here today. Thanks all for joining. I guess I thought it would be before Tammy jumps into the presentation, I thought I'd show you a quick video to introduce Google Arts and Culture, and then maybe say a few words about what we do and who we are before jumping into the demo. So I'm just going to present my screen quickly and just show you a video before moving on. All right, is the video visible? Yep, okay. So let's do this. Right, I'm just going to stop sharing. So yes, Google Arts and Culture, very briefly before handing over to Tammy, we started about 10 years ago in 2011, and it's
artists, museums, cultural institutions.
It's a non-profit part of Google that partners with cultural organizations around the world, museums, archives, libraries, heritage sites, small, large, very, very broad range of organizations. And the goal really is to kind of make culture accessible to anyone, anywhere. This through all sorts of technologies such as digitization technology, storytelling, publishing tools. And so the very core of what we do is based on these partnerships with these organizations, and everything you see on the platform comes from them. Well, before moving on, one quick note as well is that we between 2011 and today, I would say Google Arts and Culture has evolved a lot. I don't know if any of you kind of have followed our work, but we started very focused on art in what's actually initially called the Google Art Project, and over the years, really kind of I think very organically that the platform expanded to partnerships with organizations really across the cultural sphere. So going from history to science to music to sports and food and nature. So today, I think it's kind of a very broad in terms of representing culture and society, and also how we kind of define ourselves as people and humans, and that's what we hope makes it interesting. So I'm going to stop here, but obviously where Emma and I are here, if you have questions about Google Arts and Culture, and I'll hand over to Tammy. Tammy, thank you so much for leading this presentation.
Sure. Good morning. It's morning for me, so good morning. And I am so excited to talk to you about arts and culture. It is absolutely, hands down, one of my favorite Google resources to use with kids. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we will get started. All right. So right now, you should be looking at a slide deck that should be coming up in just a second. There we are. All right. So the plan for the next about 40 minutes or so is to talk about arts and culture through digital literacy and some other ideas. I realize I am talking to Google Power users, which is super fun. So I know that the majority of you have either used arts and culture, or you are using it, or you have some experiences with it. So if you would just put into the chat, a lot of you have introduced yourselves already, which is great. Just put into the chat, what have you used in the arts and culture, on the arts and culture site with students? And if you don't work directly with students, maybe you've done some trainings on arts and culture. That will kind of help guide where we're headed. So if you would put that in the chat, that would be really helpful. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just let you know that this training is 100% hands-on. The last thing you want me to do is to lecture about arts and culture. That would be the worst thing we could do. So we are going to be getting into arts and culture right away. The slide deck that you're looking at is really just for you down the road, or for you to use if you want to pull things off of that. But it really is not meant to, I'm not going to lecture at you about arts and culture, I promise. All right, just really quickly, a little introduction of who I am. My name is Tammy Lind. I'm located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm an instructional coach. And this slide is important. The Packer thing is really important. But the most important part of this is the GEG part. I do lead our GEG in my area of the state. And if you aren't already involved in one, which I suspect many of you are, but if you aren't already involved in a Google Educator group, I really challenge you to become involved in one, whether that's today as a result of our time together, or down the road. Those are very powerful, impactful groups to be a part of. And so I would really ask that as leaders in our Google Trainer and Innovator and coaching communities, you become active in a GEG. So I'm going to ask you to think about doing that. I'm an instructional coach, and I'm a former special educator. And so that's really why arts and culture has really hit me and is so impactful, in my opinion. Our kids need as many ways as they can have to access content and to share their learning. Arts and culture, I think, is a fantastic way to do that. All right, so our plan for today is, by the end of our session, I would love for you to walk away with something you can use either with teachers that you work with or students that you work with. I'm really going to challenge you to take something. And I would also ask you if you would please use the chat as a way to share. If you have a great idea about using arts and culture, let's crowdsource that information during this time together. All right, just a little bit more in the slide deck, and then we'll get our hands on. One of the things that I think is really important, other than the fact that arts and culture is amazing, and it's a very shiny object out there in the tech world, I do want us to kind of focus on the why of using it with kids. And that would be what you're looking at right now. Digital literacy is something, especially now with what we're hopefully coming to the end of, or we're in the midst of, depending on where you are in the world. Digital literacy is really an important topic for our kids. And it's not something that's new. It's just something I think that we need to consistently, especially as leaders that you are, consistently revisit. And so when I think about using technology with kids, I think about providing opportunities for them to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information. Those four things constantly resonate with me when I'm looking for tech resources or when I'm looking at working with other educators. And so I'm going to ask you to just keep that in your mind as we move forward. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to just highlight 3 general big areas of arts and culture, which you may or may not be aware of. And then we're going to talk a lot about the teaching and learning piece of it. So the Learn with Google Arts and Culture, if you're not familiar with this, we're going to spend some time here because it is just packed full of resources for our teachers. There are lesson plans already pre-made. There's links that guide you exactly where you need to go, depending on the topic that you're looking for. So we're going to spend time in arts and culture. Before we do that, we're going to spend time looking at themes, collections, and experiments, the three big kind of overarching areas of arts and culture. All right, with that, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm going to actually just pull up arts and culture right now. When you get there, so that would be artsandculture.google.com if you want to come to the website with me. So I'm going to pull it up here. This is the homepage, and it's kind of funny, and I know I see the names in here, and I know a lot of us provide training for teachers. Sometimes when I do these trainings, I spend so much time just on the homepage. It's amazing. You can get in here and we won't see you for 3 hours. So as we know, the top picks, they change. A lot of times they change based on what might be happening on a global scale, depending on what the time of year it is, your top picks will change. And I would make sure to when you're working with teachers and kids, let them know that. It doesn't go away. The content isn't gone. You may have to dig a little bit more to get to it, okay? We also have the featured Zoom, the ability to zoom into paintings. That's also featured on the homepage. And you can scroll through and take a look there. And you noticed that the video that Lucy shared also talked about searching arts and culture through color, which I think is really great. One of the things that we're not going to touch on during our time together today is the app. If you haven't played with the Arts and Culture app, please do. There are a lot of things that you can do in the app that you can't quite do on the web-based version of it. And so you have the ability to look at some augmented reality and some other things in the app that are a lot of fun for teachers and for kids. All right, so this is our homepage. When you are on the homepage of Arts and Culture, just notice too, you may not, if you haven't been in Arts and Culture for a while, you may not have noticed you have the ability to cast now your screen. So if you want to share that with a whole class or a whole training session, you can do it that way as well. So I like to call this the hamburger menu. So I'm going to click over here on the hamburger menu and you see the options that we have in Arts and Culture. The main areas that I think really are good entry points for people that might be new to it or people that are coming back to revisit Arts and Culture are collections, themes, and experiments. So I'm going to start with collections right now. And what that's going to do is bring me into specific museums around the world and collections that they have provided to Google for Arts and Culture. So I'm going to go in, and all I want to do, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in each one of these, but I just want to let you know the kind of the flow of how this works when you get into it. Each time you get into a collection, you get a little bit of information about the museum, and then you also get the content that has been curated from that particular museum. If you keep scrolling down, you also can drop into where that museum is, and then you also get information on the actual museum if you were going to visit it in person. This is standard across the board in general when you visit collections in Arts and Culture. The other thing that I want to highlight is right here. So these things, what they allow you to do, obviously we know the sharing, the international sign for sharing, is you have the ability to share directly to Classroom. We're going to come back to that toward the end of our time together, but I want to make sure that you have that. If you haven't already in Arts and Culture begun to create a list of favorites, that would be the heart right here. You do have to be logged into a Google account. So I'm going to ask you during our time together for the next about 30 minutes or so, I'm going to ask that you add to your favorites. If you never have done that before, all you do is click the little heart and that will put it into the favorites. We're going to address that a little bit later. All right, I'm going to come back to my hamburger menu here and I'm going to come down to themes. In themes, these are big. These are overarching themes with different collections, different experiments. There are a lot of things built in to the theme. Harry Potter fans, there is a theme specifically on Harry Potter. So now I've lost you for the next 30 minutes, and that's fine. We're going to come to learn with arts and culture. We're going to spend a little more time in that. But I want to just show you what a theme looks like. So we're going to go to this Once Upon a Try here. And what I love about the themes is it's all content that has been put together for us. And we know right now as educators, especially this school year, we have to really rely on content that may have been curated for us. Teachers are tired. It has been, I had to present to my school board last week, and it was really difficult. I had to give them a year summary. And I started out by saying, well, I kind of feel like it's been 3 years. We were remote, we were hybrid, we were in person, then back to remote, then back to hybrid. And so I think that the more we can encourage educators to use the themes built into arts and culture, I think the better use of arts and culture we'll get from in classrooms. So this is called Once Upon a Try, and I'm going to scroll down here. I love that right away we get where this content is from. I would encourage you, please, to spend time on this with kids. Have a conversation about the partners that have provided this particular content for this whole theme. And you can see in this particular theme, there's video support as well. I'm going to keep going. And of course, I work a lot in an elementary school. So of course, they want to know who invented the toilet. That would be here. They also want to know who made the toothbrush. This is very great for elementary. And we can keep going. As you can see, themes are huge. They have a lot of content. And so I'm also going to encourage you, excuse me, I'm also going to encourage you when you're using this with kids is to really provide them some guidance. Not tell them exactly where they need to head, but give them a little bit of parameter. And we'll talk about that more when we get into some of the images that are in arts and culture. So you can see this, I'm still in the same theme. You can see how big the themes are. And I love them. I could spend hours just looking through 1 or 2 different themes that you can see. All right. The other one that I want to make sure to highlight are the experiments. And again, this is where I'm going to lose everybody. In the arts and culture experiment, we're going to go right down to, we'll look at a couple of these, but right away we're going to get into this puzzle party. I actually was in a classroom and I saw this being used and it blew me away at how the educator was using it. So if you go to Puzzle Party, we're going to launch the experiment, and I did have it launched. I must have closed it by accident. We'll see if we can get it to, oh, there we go. Okay. This is collaborative puzzle building. And what I love about this is kids can collaborate together. It doesn't matter where they are. So let's go ahead and start a puzzle. We have the ability right here. Hopefully that looks familiar, a little share. And we can save the link, put it in Classroom, and send it to our friends to complete the puzzle. Please, please, please show the educators and the kids that you work with this particular part of arts and culture. I love the collaborative piece of this. So I'm going to go back. We also have an art coloring book. If you haven't looked at this, again, this is where everybody usually tunes me out and starts exploring on their own. So go ahead. It's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So here we go. Oh, let's do this one. So we can go in and we get our little color palette and we can start coloring if we want to. Again, I love the interaction with art that our kids can have. Because so often art is that far away thing in some museum that maybe we'll go to and maybe we won't. But this really allows kids that connection. And that's what I really love about it. One other thing that I want to show you in the experiments is this blob opera. And for the sake of our time together, I'm not going to open it, but I am going to show it to you. This is actually based on machine learning and sound. So give that a look. Feel free to do it now. give that a look. I think it's one of the most fun experiments that I've used with our littles, so K through 5th grade, built into arts and culture. So please take a look at that. All right, I'm going to come back to my homepage. I'm going to come back to my homepage here. And the other thing that I want to highlight to you, if you haven't, actually in the chat, would you just really quickly say the last time, previous to today, the last time you were in arts and culture? That will help. I want to show you a couple newer things that you might be aware of and you might not be aware of. The one thing that I want to show you is the achievements, and that is here. Of course, we have to gamify. Oh, hang on one second. We have to gamify our use of Google Arts and Culture, which I love. This is super fun. And I accidentally discovered this when I was getting ready for another session. And I love it. It's super fun. So we have our little achievement badges here as you go on. And I'm sure some of us have already started to collect these achievements, which is great. And you can see there's a Chromecast one. We have a curator, color explorer, image enthusiast, as you go on. And when you achieve it, it actually gives you the visual that it's been added to your badges. Please show this to kids. Again, we are hoping to use this as a way to get our kids connected with the content that is built into arts and culture. All right, so I'm going to go back to my homepage here. Ooh, wrong one. I'm going to go back to my homepage here. And we're going to talk through just a couple little things, and then we're going to get into the Learn with Arts and Culture. From here, one of the things that I want to, and this is for those of you that maybe haven't been in arts and culture for a while, one of the things that I really want to make you aware of, if we go to historical events and historical figures, if you notice on the page in front of you, there are events that could be pretty intense for some of our kids. And I'll just scroll through here. You may have noticed that a lot of the things that are covered in arts and culture could be war or are related to some war. This is why when we get to the favorite part of arts and culture, I want to just show how to get kids into the right direction. These are not inappropriate images, and this is the opinion according to Tammy Lind, so take it for what it's worth. These are not inappropriate images, but these are intense images, and they could be intense for some of our youngers. So I'm going to encourage you, excuse me, I'm going to encourage you that if you work with teachers of youngers or actual with younger kids, to use the favorite area to share content to get them started. And that would be the same. I'm going to go back here and we're going to go into historical figures. That would be the same in the historical figures as well. So again, I would encourage you to use the favorite area and the sharing to Google Classroom or sharing the link if you don't use Classroom to share content to kids, especially our youngers. All right, I'm going to stop for a second and see, are there any questions, Michael, that I need to be aware of?
Not so far. Just a lot of comments from Google Arts and Culture.
Awesome, great. If you see anything great, feel free to add to it right now as we're talking, okay? All right, so here we are we have our little subcategories down here. I want to just highlight the places, and then we're going to come back to that in just a bit. So the places, when you're in arts and culture, the places that you have here are kind of wide ranging. They're big, okay? So you have collections that are in subcategories, and then you also have artifacts that are related to the places that you've chosen. Sometimes I think people get confused with the list of places and virtual field trips or street view images. There are some of them connected in here, but there are easier ways to find it, okay? All right. Now, if there aren't questions just on general, I know I went really fast. I know that many of you use arts and culture already, but I wanted you just to be aware that we're all at the same level when we're moving forward. What I would like to do now is I want to take some time to really highlight give me just a second. Sorry about that. I had everything organized and then moved it around when I was getting ready. And that is the Learn with Arts and Culture. So I'm going to go back to my home here. I'm going to go to Themes and scroll down to Learn with Google Arts and Culture. If you have not been in arts and culture recently, please take time, a good amount of time, and spend it here. So these resources are fantastic. There are tips on how to use arts and culture in class. But this is the part that the next two sections are the two parts that I really love for use in schools. Arts and culture has been divided up by subject, school subject. There's Harry Potter. I know we have a lot of fans for us. This is fantastic. So I'm going to go into history. And look what we get here. This is almost like another overarching theme, a sub-theme of teaching with arts and culture. This is powerful stuff for our educators. If you look, there's so much related to history and related to this particular content area. This is really exciting stuff. I'm going to go back and I want to just show you the downloadable lesson plans. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking at you and I'm going to give you some time to look at these, because I'm going to make a guess. If you haven't been into arts and culture recently, you may not have taken time to walk through this. And so I want you just to be aware of the topics broken down by subject. And then look at these lesson plans that are made. And I'm going to show you, I happen to be a huge superhero fan. So of course we have to look at that one. These are full lesson ideas and plans to use in the classroom with kids. And the way that they're laid out, I'll just show you this. And then, like I said, I'm going to stop talking and let you explore. I just want to show you the lesson plan is always started out with ideas to get started, things that you need to have. And then I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. Of course, we have to stop and look at Hulk. There he is. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom here. And what it does at the end of each lesson is you get connected to the actual arts and culture piece that was provided here. Let me just click. Yeah, it's churning away. Here we go. This takes us back to our innovations. Please, please, please share this with educators. These lesson plans are fantastic, and they're fantastic resources to provide for teachers. So I'm going to go back to Learn with Arts and Culture. And I actually will throw this link into the chat just in case you didn't get to it. But I'm going to stop talking for about 5 minutes, because you know what'll happen. You'll come to this and then life will start. And then you'll think 6 months down the road, oh, right, arts and culture has subjects and lesson plans. So I want to just give you some time to look at the actual subject categories that we have here and the downloadable lesson plans as well. And then when we come back together, we'll look on these virtual field trips. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just give you some time to do that. So we will come back together in 5 minutes. So at 33, we will come back together. Because there's so much content, I'm sorry to interrupt your exploration. Because there is so much content in arts and culture, if you find something really rich and valuable for what you do, put it into the chat. I don't know everything that's there. I'm sure there are other people that don't know everything that's there. So if you find something, please put it into the chat so that we can crowdsource this information and start to help each other. Yes, please use that favorite button. Nicole, I am not sure, but we can definitely check on that today. About 3 more minutes. See if you can find content that you can share with the whole group so that we crowdsource all of the great content that is here. All right, about 1 more minute. And then we'll keep going on the Learn with Arts and Culture site. Tom, I love the idea of the icebreaker activity for the puzzle party. It's fantastic. Thank you for putting that into the chat. All right, about 1 more minute, then we're going to keep going. 1 more minute. We find the lesson plans, Mr. Cooper, we find the lesson plans about halfway down on the Learn with Arts and Culture. All right. All right. Well, if you would please throw into the chat, what did you find in these 5 minutes? What did you see? What lesson plans did you look at? What content did you look at? What subject area did you go to? Go ahead and throw that into the chat, please, so that we can take a look at that. I'm going to pull my screen back up and we're going to keep going. All right. One of the things that I wanted to make sure to highlight, there we go. Sorry about that. Sorry. One of the things that I want to make sure to highlight is that in the arts and culture, sorry if I made you all dizzy with that, with the arts and culture, let me find my right tab here. There we go. With the Learn with Arts and Culture, remember that's curating content from all different places, okay? So when you are looking at the specific Learn, which is right here, these are curating content in themes and collections and experiments all wrapped in together, okay? Make sure that you keep that straight, only because it could be confusing to some teachers that you might be working with that think this is different content. It isn't. It's pulled in together into one content area for them. So we have the downloadable lesson plans here that we looked at. I, of course, like the superhero one again, like I said. We also have the ability to go on a virtual field trip. And I have to tell you, these are fantastic. And I know that expeditions is a hot topic right now, but I want you to really settle into these virtual field trips that I'm going to show you. The first one that I want to share with you is this one. And what I love about these trips is that we get the information that we're looking at and the view that we're looking at with information right over the top. So let me scroll down here so that you can see what I'm talking about. So here we are. Hold on, it'll come up in just a second. Let me see if I can pull that a little bit quicker. Sometimes, there we are. Okay, there we go. What I love about this is we have our 360 view that you're looking at. So I'm going to just rotate around so you can see that. In addition to that, though, we have our information overlaid right on top of it. As I keep going, remember, let's come back to that find and evaluate information for kids. This is fantastic. This is live content with information overlaid on the top. Very similar to expeditions. Okay, again, here I am. I can scroll, and then here is my information based on what I'm looking at. All right, I'm going to go back. Let me go back here, and we can go to a different one. So if I use my little right arrow here, let's go ahead and head to a castle. There we are. If you notice, you have the ability to share again. You have the ability to add it to your favorites, and then we get to our tour. So you can see this provides my 360 view, and then I have my information here as to what I'm looking at. I think that these are really valuable for our kids in that whole find and evaluate information. Really quickly, this is information related to if you use the app on your phone. Okay, you have the ability to look at AR options. Let's see, we'll go look at this one. Here we go. See if we can get it to come up there, and we can grab it, and we get our 3D view when we're looking at it on the web-based version. Okay, now I talked to you at the very beginning about favorites, okay? It's really important that we understand, especially for kids, as we're starting to collect this content and we're starting to favorite more and more information, this is where we can get content out to kids through Google Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead, and I do have to pull up this theme because I am from Milwaukee, of course. And I might add, there aren't a lot of cities that have the highlights. So I just had to give that little shout out to Milwaukee, and shout out to Arts and Culture for highlighting us. But I do want to let you know, as you add these to your favorites, as you're going through with educators or in the classroom, depending on who your audience is, you can share this directly with them. So here we have our theme related to Milwaukee. I'm going to go ahead and hit share. And I went through this pretty quickly, but I want to just let you know, you can share this directly to Google Classroom as an assignment, an announcement, or as a question. We'll see if we can get it to pop up here. And there we go. Okay. We also can make this a material part of Google Classroom. And if you use Google Classroom, you know that the materials are things that kids come back to reference. So the tie to Google Classroom is really, really nicely done. If you don't use Google Classroom, or if you're just starting to curate a list that you want to come back to and use in the classroom, you can copy the link. That will take you directly back to this theme. All right. So I'm going to actually stop there. What I would love to do is we're going to transition into the Q&A, but I would love for you to continue the conversation about how we use Google Arts and Culture with our kids. Because I find, as I work with educators, this is really not a very well-known classroom resource yet. And I will go so far as to say, I believe this can be used with any content and any age student. And so I would love to have us in the chat just quickly, how do you share this out to more and more and more teachers? So if we can just take a minute before the Q&A to do that, I think it would be really valuable for everyone on the call. How do you share arts and culture with your educators or with your students, depending on who your audience is? I'm going to ignore the reference to Milwaukee with the elbow cough. That's okay. How do you use this? Good. Yes, Julian, I know you use this definitely in a lot of professional development. Cami, thank you for that. That's great. There's so much content. If we can start to highlight that content with each other, that will save us a lot of searching time. Christy, definitely working with them. Peggy, perfect. To share it with TCA would be great. That's a very broad audience. That's perfect. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jackie, for adding that. Perfect. Hopefully, we're starting to see the value of something as big as arts and culture. Nadine, definitely try to chunk it into little pieces for sure with your educators. Excellent. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over for the Q&A. Michael, is there anything that you need from me before I do that? I'll mute out and then we can head to the Q&A.
No, you did great, Tammy. Thank you so much for doing the demo for our educators. So we're moving on now with the Q&A. One question that stand out was the age restriction. Lucy, can you tell us more about it?
Age restriction, yes. I mean, Google Arts and Culture is open to everyone. It is like many Google products. It kind of governed by the kind of standard Google terms and services and privacy policy. So it is a lot of the features that are required to be logged in would require to be 13 and over. And features like the art selfie as well. But otherwise, it is open to everyone. There's no age restriction in terms of accessing. A lot of the features do not require to be signed in.
Thank you. Tammy, someone asked if the slide deck will be shared.
Yeah, I can put that. I'll put that in the chat right now while you guys are talking, okay?
Thank you. We also have a question if there is any VR experiment in the site.
There is 360 content, so there are 360 videos that can be viewed as a virtual reality experience. Quite a few, for example, the natural history theme. It allows you to see dinosaurs come to life, but not as many VR experiences per se. But I think several of the videos and content can be used in VR. But we have a lot more on the AR side of things with some of the features such as Art Projector and Pocket Gallery.
We have a follow-up question regarding the age restriction.
Sorry, what was that question?
Let me show it on the screen. So besides sending them direct links, how do we keep our younger ones where we want them to be?
Do you want me to take that?
Yeah, okay.
I will just tell you when I use this with our littles. So I'm talking, if you're in the US, I'm talking 4K, 5K, 1, and potentially 2. I use the favorites. So I will, with the teacher, we'll work on figuring out the content that we want to share out, and we'll add it to our favorites, and then we push the exact link, the direct link out. That seems to be the best way to kind of, the littles, to keep them in one spot. So I would really recommend that that's how you work with them on getting them to where you want them to go. I don't know if Lucy, if you have something to add to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Tammy.
We have another question regarding how to use it under district. So students have to be signed into their accounts to access the site. And then they are restricted if it's not turned on and not turned on if under 13.
Yes, I believe I believe this is similar for expeditions actually, but in this case, I think parental permission usually is needed. So that would be the way. But I don't know, Tammy, if you have any experience on that end, on your end.
No, they have to be logged in if they're going to use the favorite part, if they're going to bookmark or come back to it. That would require a login for that piece into a Google account. But they do not have to be logged in just to use overarching arts and culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
very good point. Yes.
If you were going to share the link directly to kids, they can access your content from the link without being logged in. So I hope.
Yes, it's a very small number of features that are only available by sign. It's like the favorites and the badges and the art selfie. And actually not even the art selfie, just the favorites and the badges.
I'm showing on the screen the clarification of Cynthia.
Got it. Okay. Yes. So in that case, I'm guessing parental permission is probably the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have to log in. Yeah, it's funny that Cynthia's question came up because Carrie asked the same thing in the chat. Yes, if they're on Chromebooks, they're going to be logged into their Google account to do that. So if you think parental permission would be best, then I would go ahead and just move forward with that.
No, the experiments don't require to be logged in.
In fact, you don't have to be logged in to even do the puzzle party if you have the link. And that's kind of what I love about this too, is that it isn't super tied to one account. Like I can share content back and forth with kids and with teachers without needing to have everybody logged in.
You have another question if there's any plans to allow for teachers guided tours?
Not at the moment, I'm afraid, but we understand that it's a really important functionality that's really useful. So definitely, taking the feedback and sharing. We'll share it with the team.
Are there any plans on making those lesson plans available in other languages, such as Spanish?
Potentially. At the moment, it's been kind of a new strain for us. So it is true that we've kind of tried to kind of diversify the amount of lesson plans. But yes, I'm sure at some point we will localize them and make them available in more languages.
Thank you. It looks like that question came up a couple times about language and accessibility.
And I mean, beyond the lesson plans are a bit specific, but the rest of the platform, we have an integrated Google Translate functionality. So this is, the whole platform in terms of the infrastructure is all available in all languages, but it is true, most languages. But the content itself, because it comes from institutions, it's not automatically, the translations can be accessed by the kind of Google Translate widget that's kind of integrated. And just looking at the next question, all the 360 videos can all be viewed via either a mobile device or a VR headset. In terms of the actual tours, so virtual tours of using kind of what the new versions of what the expeditions will be. These will be on device and mobile device, not on VR in VR format.
We also have a question earlier asking if there will be an option to lead students by the teacher.
Yes, I think I touched on this earlier, but not at the moment. At the moment, the tours will only be available as a kind of solo viewer.
So can I just address that from a classroom perspective, the whole idea of teacher-led? I get it. With Expeditions, we had teacher-led trips, and I just want to kind of give a little bit of insight into that as we're working with different kids. I had a teacher that actually created a doc with different trips that students could take and access from the mobile devices. So they had their expedition kits. You can access the content, but I will say what I love about allowing our kids to explore, maybe not having the teacher guided trip, is that it can be really personalized. And so I know that again, we're Expeditions, a teacher could lead a whole class, but I also love the fact that we can have our kids kind of go off on interest-based trips as well. And I'm talking about olders, but I don't want us to lose sight of that as we think about expeditions and things like that. Kids can still take virtual trips, and they can still access content from around the world. And I love the fact that they can do it on a personalized basis rather than one for all. And so I don't want us to lose sight of that as we're looking and kind of clinging to Expeditions. You still have the ability to take kids on trips. You still have the ability to have kids have that immersive experience. It's just going to look a little bit different. And I like the idea of being able to have kids on trips that interest them as well. So let's, as an educator, I'm just going to say to you, let's not lose sight of that, okay, moving forward. And I hope that that's okay, Lucy and Emma, that I said that. I just, I know that we are clinging to that, but there are so many great things available to us still that allow us to give kids an immersive experience. And so as we're thinking about these things and making that decision for Expeditions, and as it sunsets and goes, like how we're going to do it, don't lose sight of the fact that kids can still have immersive, powerful experiences through 360 video or through arts and culture. I'm off my soapbox now. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I had to do it. So I'm not lecturing anybody. I'm sorry if that came across as lectury. It wasn't intended to be, but I just wanted to make sure that we remember that because we tend to get targeted vision with that. And I love that we can put that into the chat and crowdsource these ideas on how to do that.
Yes, at the moment, it is possible through the favorites. You can actually organize favorites as galleries, so kind of your little collections, and share them. So that's kind of one of the ways where you can maybe encourage students to maybe kind of take ownership a little bit more of the content and organize them maybe according to different themes or topics. I'm trying to think across the different features. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, can I just jump in? I was just going to say, if you look at the lesson plans as well that we've created, there's lots of activities there that kind of relate to Google Arts and Culture or relate to the subject at hand. So I would definitely have a look at the lesson plans and see the activities there. They're designed basically so that students can either work through the lesson plans at their own pace, or teachers can use them to guide a class in the usual way. But that's also quite a nice way to look at how students can get involved with the subject and do something themselves.
Would it be helpful if I pulled up the actual pieces of the lesson plan? Would that be helpful? Yes? Okay, then I'm going to share my screen again, Michael. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. If I'm just going to pull this particular lesson plan here. Let me just go back up to the top so you can see it. This is actually from the Learn with Arts and Culture lesson plan resources. And if you go down, so they're really well written. And if you look, I'm going to go all the way down here. You get a little lesson on how to use arts and culture in this particular unit with kids. And then It walks you through every single thing and question that you may want to ask kids as you're working. And so you can look, what we have here is if I click on that, it will take me out to, just give it just a second, to another web resource, okay? These are really full lesson plans that you can share with educators using arts and culture. And what I love about this too is, let me keep scrolling, sorry, I hope you're not getting motion sick here. There are also questions built in that you can ask kids about the particular trip that you're on. So let me just scroll so you can see here. I think these are really, really nicely done. And so as you find them, there are also virtual 360 immersive trips that you could drop kids into as well. So I hope that helps. And I didn't see the name of the person asking the question, but I hope that that helps just kind of have that view. I know when I'm looking for lesson plans or I'm looking for activities, I want to have that kind of overarching idea of what I'm looking for and where I can find it. And you can see here, kind of guides you through what you're looking at. So let me click on that. There we go. And you can see I can scroll through. Now I'm in a story related to that topic. All right, so I hope that that helps, Catherine.
We have a question if there's an easy way to find the lesson plans on the iPad.
So all the lesson plans are on the Learn with Google Arts and Culture theme page. So that's the best way to really get there. So going to themes and then Learn with Google Arts and Culture, and then there's a dedicated section towards the top where all the lesson plans. So it would be the same on iPad or anywhere else. It should be the same, yeah, same path.
Oh, I'm going to defer to you guys on that question.
I mean, this is yeah, I mean, I can't really I'm not sure. I mean, I think you know, you use the internet and taking screenshots of images is something that people do. The platform itself doesn't allow to download the images. So I mean, I think that if this allows you to use the content for education, I don't see why it would be a problem. But yeah, obviously, I'm not I wouldn't be able to kind of give a very official response, but I don't see why it wouldn't be a problem in the context of education.
Just looking back through for any other questions.
Yeah, I think we can take 2 more questions.
Oh, thanks for this. I mean, yes, I mean, we have a feedback form, and that's the main way we try to fix any issues. It can happen that content, yeah, because it all comes from our partners. Sometimes it might be possible that a video doesn't work anymore. So the feedback form is the main way that we get these issues reported. But thank you for the feedback. I'll definitely look at that video.
One quick thing, can I just quickly mention, some people are mentioning Tour Creator and Tour Builder, both of those things in the chat. I see a lot of that. Just remember, you can also create content and in Google Earth with projects, and that's a whole other discussion. But I don't want you to forget about that. I've seen that mentioned a few times, and that can be done in Google Earth projects.
think we're taking the last question. Do we get the link to the slide deck, Tammy?
I did put it in. Do we need it again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Give me just a second here. It's just going to be the long link. I'm sorry about that. Give me a minute. Michael, could you, I just put it in ours. Could you throw it in the group, in the whole group? Would you mind?
Yeah, is it the presentation that you had?
It is. Yeah,
Okay.
it's that long link.
Yes, well, we'll do that. I do have to go because I've been an emergency. But great, thanks, Michael. So I didn't want to interrupt, but I have to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We're actually ending the session now.
Great.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Tammy, for presenting.
Thank you. That was great. Thanks.
Bye-bye.